So, Steve, Star Fox 2026 released today, and it's a very short game, and so we've had a bunch of time with it. We finished it on a few routes, played the multiplayer, and we're both very familiar with this game on the N64, on the 3DS. This is by no means new to us, and it is one of the most innovative and iconic games of all time. So, a remake holds a lot of weight. What are you feeling? What are your raw impressions after running through Star Fox a few times?
Pure joy, John. I wasn't sure what I was going to feel. I got lucky. My copy arrived just a couple hours early. So here on the west coast of the US, we traditionally get like releases at 9 p.m. the night before at the very earliest. And I think Amazon just kind of slipped up and delivered mine like mid-afternoon yesterday. So
it's always nice when that happens.
Yeah, really awesome. Like the first time in my entire life that's actually happened. The copy just showed up on my doorstep early, and I picked it up right after I finished my work for the day yesterday, played it all night long, and almost immediately I realized, so to be clear, I did what any of us would do. I grabbed my laptop, I grabbed my capture card, I got set up to record my gameplay because I knew we'd need it. That's what you're seeing on screen right now if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching on Patreon, you're just watching me talk. And I sat down to get ready and treated it like a work assignment, which is what I usually do. And my brain immediately flipped away from work and just back into, enjoying this. I was leaning forward in my seat, shouting when I saw cool stuff happening on the screen. It was incredibly exciting for me to be replaying Star Fox 64 and looking like this. Velen Studios 1000% nailed the presentation here. And honestly, even as we're talking about it now, I'm just thinking about going back in and doing another run because I haven't seen every single planet yet. I've done 2 runs and then some multiplayer, and I really, really like what they've done here.
Oh, absolutely. I hope Velen just become a mainstay. They did a good job with Mario Kart Live, but that was like a wacky little project. This is something serious. And it's hard to take a game that's so ingrained into your mind as Star Fox 64 and do it justice, but they do in almost every way. One thing that I love is how dynamic all their lighting and volumetrics are. Like when you're going through Corneria, you start off with like big blue skies. It seems all happy as if there isn't really a war going on. But then you get to the city and it just fades into this smoky battlefield where for the first time ever, really, Corneria just feels like a city. It feels like something that's actually under attack. And I was worried about that prior. I was worried that they kind of ruined the tone, but it gets there. It's not just fixed. They have these really cool dynamic shifts in tone. And some of the best levels for that are space, which are usually just black backgrounds on N64. But suddenly you've got like purple fog and all these like stars illuminating off each other. You get just some incredible sense of atmosphere in some of the least expected places. And it's so cool seeing how they just reimagine how all these places look. And one really cool thing is that poster they posted a while ago with the big red planet, that's just an in-game screenshot. That's just part of a cutscene. But it looks so good that you could just turn it into a promo art. But that's entirely in-game. It's wild what they've done here.
Yeah, the visuals are next level. They are incredible. One thing that I love that you mentioned the lighting, because in my first run, I went to Aquas. And Aquas is a famously dark level. It's underwater, and you're in the submarine, and you're supposed to use your torpedoes to kind of light your path. And that is just so impressive here. Like I don't think they used ray trace lighting, but it looks incredibly good here. Similarly on Venom, like when you're approaching Andros, if you take the Venom 2 route and you kind of have more of actually it's in either Venom route, but you can shoot a laser down the tunnel and you can see the laser like illuminate as it goes forward. And it just felt so cool to me to see kind of these more realistic lighting effects in a game, and to be clear, Star Fox 64 for its time was a AAA game. Like it was the pinnacle of what visual fidelity was on the N64 at the time. And this just feels like it captures the spirit of that in the same way. And that this is, at least to my mind, the best looking Switch 2 game I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, it runs and just looks so good. It's only running at 1080p, but you can't really tell because it's just super sharp. Lots of just great processing on the image. But the thing you said about like illuminating the hallway when you shoot, I definitely noticed that, and it's kind of a lost thing for a lot of games because it's way more expensive to do that than it used to be. Like Metroid Prime on the GameCube could do that, but Prime Remastered couldn't because that's just how things have evolved. It's really expensive to do an effect like that now, but it's really convincing, looks fantastic. I will say that there's a few like small little things that I'm not loving, but they're minor. So there's parts in the game, in the original, where the score is kind of part of the gameplay. So on the train level near the end of the game, there's a part in the N64 where the score is kind of held off until the explosion occurs. And so you kind of feel the impact of getting that score. Like the explosion goes off and your score goes up. But because gameplay and cutscenes are a bit divided on this one, the score happens before that. So you don't get that punch of like feeling that impact there. It's minor, but it's something that does kind of take a little bit away from that feel.
I do agree with you, especially when it's a boss and you take a boss out and you're going to go into the cutscene where the boss is like screaming and exploding, or you're driving a train into a building, which made me laugh way more than it should have on the remake. But you see that like hit plus 50 show up and you're like, oh, it's over. And whereas in 64, it didn't truly feel over until you saw the boss actually explode and you got the little score indicator. It could be me too, but I feel like I will admit, because of the time we're recording this, I haven't yet seen my frame rate analysis because that tool takes a while, and I put my footage into it before I went to bed. It feels like the cutscenes maybe go at like a lower frame rate than the rest of the gameplay.
30. They're absolutely 30.
Okay. I was going to say I felt it. I couldn't, but it was just by eye. And that to me is the tiniest bit jarring because the gameplay is seemingly a completely solid 60 FPS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fine for the Star Fox like conference room scenes. They're totally fine being a 30. But it's like when Star Wolf appears, there's that sort of jarring disconnect because that's in-game gameplay and it is running at half rate. It does look really good though. Like just watching those ships just soar through with this impressive lighting. It's very. It happens for a few seconds and you're back to 60. So I wish they could have held it, but it's fine for the most part. And one other small complaint I have is the retry button. Just doesn't make you lose anything. Like there's no consequence for using it. So if you die, you lose a life. If you retry, you don't. And you can retry back to the checkpoint or the beginning of the level. So there's actually no consequence. You keep your lasers, you keep your lives, you keep everything you had. I don't really know why they did it that way. Like it's obviously you push the buttons you press, just don't use it if you don't want to, but it's odd that they just kept it like that.
I found that to be a bit odd too, because I was playing through Sector X and I wanted to hit I was playing through Meteos and I wanted to hit the secret to get to Sector X. And I missed it. I missed one of the rings that you have to navigate your way through. And I was like, oh, I'll just retry, because it's a very early level. I was very early in my run. And then when I hit the button, I immediately thought, oh God, I have 3 R wings and now I'm down to 2, and then I was still at 3 and I was like, oh, that feels weird. I don't love that because it just makes it, oh, I'm failing. I'm just going to hit retry and go back. And I get that for some folks, that may be the way they want to play, especially for younger players. They may just want to be able to retry. But in a game that is so short and so repeatable as this, I feel like you didn't have to get rid of the penalty for hitting retry.
Exactly. My only other major complaint is it's more about completionism. Your crew are a lot more competent this time, to a negative.
Yes.
So when fighting Star Wolf, and this has happened to me and a few friends, Slippy keeps killing them. So he keeps getting the final blow. And apparently that can happen on N64. It's just really rare. But when they get that blow, it doesn't count as you. So you don't get the medal, which is a bit annoying. So
interesting.
If that happens, you've got to restart.
I actually had the reverse experience playing it myself. My first encounter with Star Wolf. Now, to be fair, my very first encounter, because I did the route to get the true ending on my first playthrough. My first encounter with Starwolf ended up, at Venom. And that was the only time in any of my runs where I lost an R-Wing because my crew was being decimated by them. So I would have like 4 of them on me and have to take them out myself. But I will say in the earlier one, because in another playthrough, I did the first Starwolf encounter, and that one feels almost too easy. Like
it does.
I think we took them out in like 30 seconds, and I did miss a kill because I think Falco got him in my case, but still, I'm not used to any of them taking out a member of Starwolf.
Yeah, it's super uncommon, but it happened to me twice, and it's happened to a few friends who've just mentioned it. So it does seem like it is more common, but I am looking for things to complain about because there's so much that I can't complain about. It's just delightfully put together. It's very much one-to-one with the original, but playing it at 60 FPS in this fidelity with the soundtrack sounding as good as it does is ridiculous. And in the credits, you can see the soundtrack was done at Abbey Road. Like, it was done in like one of the most prestigious audio studios in the world. So they gave it like such a cool treatment to make it sound this good. It's just remarkable.
I can't believe I missed that. Star Fox now has something in common with the Beatles.
Yeah.
Which is, that's not something I thought I'd be saying today. But it is, and I usually am not the type of person to go on about a game's soundtrack, but just hearing this music that we're also familiar with redone, in this way, it was frankly beautiful. I loved hearing those tracks. The N64's MIDI did a great job. Like it sounded, like it had pomp to it when you listen to it on the original hardware. But here it's like you're hearing what it was always meant to sound like. They don't change it meaningfully. They just use real instruments to play this music. And when you hear that kind of like mission end theme, it just hits so much harder in this new version.
It really does. Everything just feels like a space opera. There's one on the hard mode route where you're just flying through space for the last time, and it just kicks in, like the choir, enemies flying at you. It's all just amplified to an extreme that it's never been at before. It just feels and looks so good. I've seen one complaint flying around that the hit stuns don't accentuate like they used to. Like when you're fighting a boss in N64, they used to flash when you hit them, and now they don't. However, I think people are disregarding the haptics here. You feel the hit. So while it doesn't flash, you get that sort of springiness. So I've seen some say like a newcomer wouldn't know if they're doing damage. I think you do. I think you still feel it.
Yeah, not only that, but there is an audio cue as well. Like when you hit a boss, you hear a different sound when you hit a point that doesn't do damage versus an actual weak point. Like try shooting Andros in the mouth versus the eyes, and you'll hear a difference.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm glad you brought up audio though. I'll jump to that in a sec, but I want it's interesting because the haptics in this game are also top notch, which makes sense. Star Fox 64 is the game that introduced Rumble into the console gaming space. Like I don't think enough of us remember that's how Nintendo shipped the Rumble pack for the N64 was as a pack-in with this game. And it's very interesting to me that I understand the need for a visual flash because they didn't necessarily only sell it with the Rumble pack. You could have bought the game and just decide to forego the Rumble pack. The Rumble pack used external batteries. They could be dead. So you wouldn't be able to just get force feedback necessarily at all times with that game. This game, on the other hand, it's built into literally every input method. So I think it makes sense. And I think it would take a little away from the really polished presentation if the enemies flashed like in an arcadey way when you hit them.
Yeah, they've gone for realism here. It's definitely true as visuals evolve, being able to pick them out and the visibility of them does get lesser and lesser. As you add more detail, things do become harder to perceive. I think they have done a really good job trying to walk that line, though, here. So while you don't get the flashes and things, you still get, the haptic feedback. You still get the sound effects. And in general, when it comes to just enemy layout, I think they've done a great job with the lighting, just trying to make each one stand out as best as they can. It's definitely not quite like what it used to be in some other remakes where things just get lost in the shadows. They've definitely done their best to keep things as loyal as they can while making the visual style just jump way ahead.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that it looks really impressive. I think that they managed to highlight, and to be clear, I talked about this just a little bit. Members of your team will also, if you're struggling, they'll call out where a boss's weak point is eventually. If for some reason you're just not getting it, Peppy will just tell you. Like, he'll be like, hey, shoot this part. I let my daughter play it because she was leaning over my shoulder just watching me intently, and she was like, this looks cool. And I'm like, I had finished 2 runs, and so I was like, just borrow it for a sec. Like, you can play it for a little while. And as someone who had never played the game, she had some struggles, and she's also 9, and so she was playing the first boss, and I didn't give her any tips because I wanted to see what would happen. And she was fighting the first boss, and Peppy eventually was like, shoot the openings, like, just very clearly, and she got it after that. She's like, oh, when it opens, I shoot it, and I'm like, exactly. And so she nailed it. One thing that I tried to do, and I'm not sure if this maybe my aim was just poor. In the N64, I remember you could shoot the joints on the first boss, like where those 2 side things, and I couldn't make that work. I guarantee it does. I just couldn't get it myself.
Mm-hmm. I found as a whole, just because it's 60 FPS, aiming does feel a little bit better. Like when it comes to the Andros final boss in particular, I feel such a cakewalk because there's no frame drops. It's just really easy to keep that cursor on him. But yeah, maybe that's just when they've tweaked a little bit. But as a whole, aiming feels great. And we'll get to the multiplayer in a little bit once we're done talking about the main adventure, but that's also a big highlight for aiming. But another really great visual showcase is Zone S, which is one that looked beautiful on 3DS as well. Like, those heavy waves looked really good in the 3DS version. But now they've kind of really sold that this is a polluted, just done-for planet by putting like really subtle pieces of garbage in the water, which is something that you couldn't make out on 3DS. I didn't make out in the trailers, but when playing on my TV, you can just see like there's just rubbish floating in the water as well. It just really sells that this is just a really like polluted place. Just those small details.
Oh yeah, it may be my favorite level. It was my favorite level in the N64 version because the placement of the spotlights made it a challenge to try to get through it, stealthily. And of course, I took that on my first run as well, and really, really loved it. This is also where you get to see Kat. If you're doing like just the upper rim run, which is my favorite one to do, you get to see her for the first time in this run. And just the back and forth between her and Falco is the way Velen has changed the relationship dynamics just by adding audio is really, really fun, really impressive to me. And I just love the banter between Kat, Falco, and Fox in any level where she shows up.
She's a lot more characterful here than she's ever been. And we've been talking for nearly 20 minutes, and we've not mentioned the redesigns at all. I think it's just because they feel kind of natural now. I remember when Kat was revealed in the trailer, people lost their minds. But with time to process it and just experiencing it in the game itself, I think she's just way more likable than she's ever been. In the original, she was like that femme fatale, but there wasn't really much to her. She was the girl character, and so she was the pink character. And now she just feels like an actual mercenary. There's like a hardened edge to her, and she's like, but not so much so that like she's not fun. Like, there's still like a fun, lighthearted side to her. And I just want to see more of Kat in this style.
Oh, absolutely. There was a moment in one of the levels where on the exit, like she joins you, and then on the way out, she calls Falco Lombardi, and then Fox makes fun of him for it.
Yeah. There's actually some really good new dialogue in this one. So you put it side by side with the original, and some lines may seem a bit dry, but like there's some really good brand new lines. Like there's one where like Fox is off against Andros in the ending when he's just a big brain, and Fox says something like, "This isn't the face-off I had in mind," or something like that.
Yeah,
there's just some really good one-liners in there. Like this, they're like maybe not overall as iconic as the original was, but there's some still really strong ones there.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to me. The voice acting, honestly, I think is going to be the biggest divisive factor for this game for a lot of people. In fact, it's the one thing, even more so than the art style, that I hear people talking about online is just, oh, I don't like the delivery of the lines, or I don't like that it's not campy anymore. But when I was playing it, one, I don't think 13, 14-year-old me knew what camp really was when I played Star Fox 64. I just it was the way a lot of American translations of Japanese games sounded, right? Like overacted, ham-fisted dialogue kind of stuff. And so to me, it was just another translation. These days, I think that, this stays true to the source material a lot more. Daniel did a great video on that, talking about how, the tone is overall closer to the original Japanese version. And while I do have love for the original N64 translation, I think that this is, I really, really appreciate what Velen did here with these characters, because they feel more lived in. They feel like they have experiences of their own to talk about. There's this really cool line when you're in that like warp tunnel early on in the game, if you take the lower route, where Falco talks about his previous crew and how they would love to see this. And I'm like, that's so cool. Like, it adds so much context to that character.
It definitely does. There's a lot of stuff in the original that doesn't really sell their mercenary team. Like, it's up until that bill at the end. I think that's really when it comes through that like these guys are hired killers. But in every cutscene, Fox is just like badgering Pepper about the bill at the end. Like, he's just always reminding him that he's getting paid for this stuff. There's a personality to Fox here that might be my favorite one. See, he's really dry and assault. 64 is pretty good. But yeah, this one, he has that kind of, that likable cockiness to him. And I hope that they keep this personality going forward.
Yeah, I agree. He doesn't, in 64, he seems more like an altruistic hero. Save for the bill at the end, whereas in this one, it's like he doesn't really care about General Pepper. Like, he doesn't recognize his authority and is just like, yeah, I'll keep going as long as you can afford it. And they do the job, and there are some cool character moments where Fox does fill the role of like a hero, right? Where he has this heroic moment, particularly on Venom, especially when he, if you go for the true ending where you see the vision of his dad, right? Those moments feel appropriately like they have gravity to them. But the rest of it is Fox is generally like a cocky ace pilot who, is messing about with his friends while doing these missions. Like, him and Falco talk smack to each other almost constantly. And I love even just kind of even though you hear them probably a few times in a run, like when you might snipe a target from Falco and Falco will get angry with you, the delivery on those lines is just really, really great. And I love to see kind of this characterization of Fox, because if anything, I feel like Fox is a bit too serious in 64 and a bit too silly in the Galaxy movie. And this is a great in-between where he feels like his own character with his own interesting motivations, but he doesn't fall into either archetype.
Yeah. I was like with Slippy in 64, I think most of his personality came from gameplay. He's the one that always gets chased down. He's kind of like the one you have to look out for. I like how they've added the dimensions of no one really trusting his designs as well. Like, they introduced the submarine and the Landmaster, and like Falco just thinks the submarine is just made of like put together with tape and like gum or something. I like all this stuff, and it's always kind of been there, but they've never really elaborated on it in this way. And getting those downtime moments between the levels, just let the crew have back and forths and have this personality is really great. And the best part is you can skip it all as well. Like, none of this, you don't have to listen to any of this stuff, but it adds just this great extra layer to everything. And when you do skip it, the load times are still really quick as well. Like, obviously, they're not N64 level. That's just instant.
Yeah.
But it's like, what, a few seconds?
It's not very long.
Yeah.
One thing I really love too, we've talked a lot about the voice performance, but the cutscenes in between add so much to the narrative of the game. Like each mission, you get a unique cutscene based on which route you took and where you would naturally go next. But in a lot of cases, you're presented with the choice, right? Do you want to stay on the route you're on or go to a lower route or a higher route? And the team will explain the pros and cons of both approaches. They'll talk about, well, this objective is strategic for this reason, but this one also needs help. And it's up to you to, trust your instincts and choose which one to go to. Peppy leans on the trust your instincts a lot in various cutscenes, but I really like it. I think that the exposition adds so much to it that I just wouldn't want to skip it.
No, I mean, Star Fox has always been one of those games that's very short. Like you can finish this in well under an hour, but you go through it again and again, not only to get a better score, but because you can go in different routes, see different levels. But yeah, now part of the appeal is also seeing these different cutscenes, like seeing how it plays out if you go from this planet to this planet, or this planet to this planet. Because there's a lot of just world building and character building, and you've got to do several playthroughs to see it all. And then on top of that, there's like achievements. You can go through the mouse mode as well, which is really rad. The 3DS remaster didn't have the cockpit view for some reason, so it's cool that it comes back again. So that was in the N64 version. And in the dogfight areas with like Star Wolf, you do get like a lot of really pinpoint accuracy when you're using mouse mode. That was a nice way to get it in there, because you can just very easily move your cursor around.
I desperately want to try mouse mode. I will fully admit I played one run docked and one run in handheld, and that was all I had time for before it was bedtime. I really want to try mouse mode in particular over game share. Like the fact that works on game share feels bonkers to me. I really desperately want to try that. It of course limits you to only playing on Switch 2, so Switch 1 owners are kind of left out on game share on this one. But man, it seems like a fun way to play. Like have one person be the gunner and another be the pilot.
Totally. And I think because so much of this is on rails as well, that's just such a natural fit. I tried playing Star Fox Zero co-op recently, and it was quite miserable because you don't know where the other person's going to be pointing. So there's so many like third-person chicken walker sections or all those all-range mode areas. 64's got less of that, so I think that's going to feel a lot more natural. But speaking of all-range mode, that's what the multiplayer is. And it's been in every version. It's been in 64, it's been in 3DS. And every time they've changed it up. Like no version of Star Fox 64 has the same multiplayer. So this one has just like new objectives, just reimagined maps. But there's only 3 of them. And that's like, the original didn't have robust maps either. It might have even just been 3 as well. But I feel like they could have done a lot more here because it's really good. That's the thing. It's really fun, but it's really limited.
I got to play 2 different modes or 2 different objectives in the multiplayer. One, I had to collect cargo from pirates and then bring it back. And the other, I had to shoot meteors and collect the cores of those meteors or collect energy from them. And I really enjoyed both. One was just out in space and one was on, I'm blanking on the name of the ice planet right now.
It is. Is it Fishina?
Fishina. Thank you. Yeah. My daughter was like, "Did he say Vegeta?" And I was like, "No, wrong franchise." But Fishina. And so on Fishina, we were like, it was interesting because you had this set of objectives, and then you had to fend off the other team. I was playing as Team Star Fox. Weirdly, it put me with a team of bots against Star Wolf, but like me and 3 random players were playing against a bot team of Star Wolf. And then so you had to fight them off, but also you had to make sure you weren't in the meteor shower, because that would just take you out if you got hit by a meteor. And then when they landed, you then had to swarm them, destroy them, and collect what was inside them for points. And outside of that sounds cool on its own, and it is. But then there's like unique power-ups scattered around the maps. You can get, my favorite one that I've found so far is the laser pods, where you just have a bunch of little lasers. So you're shooting like 6 lasers instead of 2. And I just love what these add. Like you can get teleportation, you can get infinite boost. It almost feels Mario Kart inspired in a way.
Yeah, it's weird that they fleshed out the core gameplay so much. but haven't put that much into the variety there. Because there's 3 maps and 3 modes. Every map belongs to a mode. And I got the capture the flag one, the one where you talked about the treasure they have to like capture and bring back to your base. I got that 4 times in a row because there's a 1 in 3 chance you're going to get like one of these 3 maps. So you're very likely to do the same thing over and over. And I had a blast every time. And the camera's pulled way back, which is really cool for all range mode because you can just easily see where you are. You can aim much more because the field of view is much wider. I didn't struggle at all landing hits, like sometimes I do in all range mode. And it's great having the variety of those weapons. Like you get rockets, you can get landmines. It's really fun. There's a thrill to it when you've got, the cargo, and you're pulling it back to your base, and you've got people on your tail, and you're doing like nose dives, you're barrel rolling away, you're trying to shoot them back, use your weapons against them. It's really, really, really good. And I think if they just took all the on-range mode maps from the game and just plastered them in here, it would be like one of the coolest multiplayer games of the year. But I don't think this is going to last with how little there is.
I agree with you, unfortunately. It's one of those, I mean, to be fair, Star Fox 64's multiplayer didn't last very long with me, but it was also a different time. Like you had to have friends come over and you had to have enough controllers. And
you also had to unlock it by getting all the medals in the game.
That is also true, which I did. Which I'm grateful they didn't do that here, because obviously I don't think neither you nor I have all the medals just yet. I'm working my way through on that. I need to knock off some of the rust on my muscle memory there, but I think that this multiplayer mode, having just 3 modes feels a bit anemic in 2026.
Yeah.
It'd be nice because you have so many planets to choose from, and you could certainly do all range mode in any of these. They're fully 3D environments. It's not like it would, kill the switch to open the camera and the field of view up on some of these planets. But I like what they have here. It's a wonderful start. I hope they add more, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
I don't think so. It feels like it's just, one map, one mode. Velen are probably on hopefully the next Star Fox game. Hopefully they're on that now, but it would be nice. It'd be nice if they did, but my expectations are very low. But that said, a lot of remakes just ignore multiplayer. So the fact that it's here at all is nice. And it's also the first Star Fox, apart from Command, to have multiplayer. And Command was, it was quite a basic take on multiplayer. So to have it with all these flourishes and feeling as good as it is great. And I just hope that the next Star Fox just really fleshes it out, because they've got a great core there. They just need more.
Yeah, 100%. This is a wonderful start, hopefully, to rebooting the series. I think that this is a game that meets and in many ways exceeds my expectations for a remake. It's incredibly faithful from a gameplay perspective. If you played the original, your skills just come right over without any waste. It performs better, looks better, and adds things that don't change the core of the game, while they're additive. And I think that that's the best way you can do stuff like this. It gives me even higher hopes for the Ocarina of Time remake later this year.
Mm-hmm. I'm very picky with remakes. I always have been, especially with games as prestigious as this, because you change one thing and it's something that you hold really dear. And if they change that, it changes a lot. And there isn't really much like that here. I've talked about the score impact, about your teammates maybe being a bit too good to get those medals, but in the grand scheme, that is just the small little dips in what is otherwise a masterful presentational remake. And also taking a rail shooter made for 4x3 and making it 16:9 isn't that easy either. And they've definitely filled out those edges in a great way. Actually gives you a bit more readiness, because enemies appear from further out this time. So there's actually a little bit more impact going on from the sides. The draw distance was still made for N64, so sometimes things kind of phase in, but it's done in a smart way. Nothing ever feels like it's limited by that 1997 design. It still feels it could be modern. That's just how timeless Star Fox 64 is. And yeah, I hope a lot of people try Star Fox for the first time and fall in love with it for all the same reasons we did.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a game that, like you said, I think you couldn't have phrased it better. It's timeless. Like if you had released this, and they have this year, but if you did it without the history, without the legacy, I think that this would still be a game that would hit very well in this day and age. But John, I want to ask you, because we don't usually get coverage of a game out this early. If you had to give this a score right now, what do you think you'd give it? Are you in a place where you could give it a score, and if so, what is it?
It's difficult, isn't it? I think if they fleshed out the multiplayer, because I think like Star Fox is a game you can finish very quickly. It's also an endlessly replayable game. But for that like perceived value, and also just to play something new, because this is a game we've played repeatedly, and the multiplayer was new for the most part, I think I would be far more generous and maybe go all the way to like top marks. But because that isn't quite there, I think just seeing it as a remake compared to other remakes in the field, this is head and shoulders above pretty much everything. It's visually spectacular, runs like a dream, and the small issues I have are pretty small. If I were to like look at other remakes, like I don't know, like Shadow of the Colossus or whatever else, I can probably give you quite a few artistic things I don't love and gameplay things I don't love. That stuff doesn't apply here. I think Vellum just done a smack great good job. So I'll probably go with a 9. I'll probably say it's about as good as it could be from a remake perspective, but they could have gone a little bit further with that new stuff, like in the multiplayer.
I couldn't agree more. He summed up my thoughts almost exactly. Like when I put the controller down, I was like, wow, this could be a 10. And then I picked it up and I was like, you can't knee jerk something like that. And so I played through the whole game again, and then I played the multiplayer, and I was like, you know what? It's definitely not a 10. Like it's not perfect, but it is an amazing remake. It's incredible. And Star Fox 64, I think, going back to the original, also not a perfect game, but one of the greats. And I think that a 9 is a really appropriate place to put it, because like you said, I think that it is quite possibly my favorite remake of all time, of one of my favorite games of all time. But it certainly isn't without flaws, but those flaws are incredibly minor in my opinion. There are things that you could improve, and I think that's what keeps it from that perfect score like you mentioned, but it's such a good time.
And it speaks volumes to Star Fox 64 that this is a readily available game. You can play it right now on NSO. There was no need to remake it. Like, the game was perfectly timeless already. There was no great desire for this to be done. But the fact that they still pulled it off, which is probably even a higher order to remake something that doesn't need remaking and have it feel great, that is a really hard challenge. And they pulled it off. All right, let us know what you think about Star Fox 2026 down in the comments. And if you like those little people in the box, I know we've been on gameplay all this time, but you can see my sweaty face for now. There's patrons down there, and they've been here all along discussing this game with us. So you can join them just by joining our Patreon and watch any discussion we do live as we do it. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, everybody, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Who are you guys? We're Star Fox. Tell your boss we're coming for him. You're no match for Andros. That's gotta be worth a bonus. All aircraft report.
It'll take more than an aerial assault supercarrier to slow us down.
Wish your dad could have seen you today.
You just about managed to keep up with me, Fox.
A new intelligence report is available in the holo.